In every successful real estate transaction, there are two basic and important aspects you should pay attention to as an investor. The first is the legal aspect, and the other is the transactional aspect. The transactional aspect basically deals with the exchange of money between the buyer and the seller. And in all honesty, this is the only aspect that most investors pay attention to, leaving the more important aspect, which is the legal aspect. Now, the legal aspect basically forms the bedrock upon which every investment thrives and is sustained. In other words, it determines the security, the sustainability, and the longevity of every investment. In my own opinion, I would say that the legal aspect actually contributes about 70% to determine if a particular investment is successful or not. So you do not want to joke with the legal aspect. In this video, we'll be looking at the FCT Act, upon which every investment in the Federal Capital Territory is sustained. So ensure you watch this video to the very end. Also, like, drop a comment, share, and subscribe to this channel, because in this channel, we do not just bring you the very best real estate investment opportunities, we also educate you on how you can safely and rightly invest using facts and data in the city of Abuja. My name is Iyayi Ibuedefe. I'm the shortest distance between you and the right real estate investment here in the city of Abuja. I help my clients build sure and sustainable wealth that is transgenerational. So before we look in details into the FCT Act and what it talks about, it is important we have a little perspective of the transactional aspect of real estate investment. Now, basically, like I said before, the transactional aspect of every real estate transaction talks about, or it deals with, the exchange of money between a buyer and a seller. In other words, if for an instance you see a particular property you are interested in and you decided to buy that property, as soon as you transfer money from your account to that of the seller, we will say that a transaction has occurred. But if the entire transaction or the entire process ends at that point, something is actually wrong, because title, interest, and ownership is supposed to also flow from the seller to you before we can say that the entire system has been completed. So the next time you transfer money from your account to purchase a property, before you start rejoicing, also ensure that title, interest, and ownership also flow from the seller to you in the form of deed of assignment or other title documents. In the Federal Capital Territory, FCT, there are two basic laws or acts that govern land administration. The first is the Land Use Act of 1978, and the other is the FCT Act of 1976. The Land Use Act of 1978 simply states that all land belongs to the state government under the state jurisdiction, and all land belongs to the federal government under the federal jurisdiction. And then the FCT Act is what actually forms the basis upon which land administration is being carried out in the Federal Capital Territory. And then I will just read some of the key points you should note regarding the land administration in the FCT Act. The first is that the Federal Capital Territory FCT Act established Abuja as Nigeria's capital, replacing Lagos. As you already know, Abuja is the only planned city in Nigeria with a master plan, and as such, it was established based on the FCT Act. Now, the second point is that the FCT Act defines the boundaries and geographic scope of the FCT, covering approximately 8,000 square kilometers. In other words, the total landmass of the Federal Capital Territory is approximately 8,000 square kilometers. The third point is that the FCT Act creates the FCT administration headed by a minister appointed by the president. That is to say, what the governor is to state is what the FCT minister is to the FCT. Now, the fourth point is that all land within the FCT is vested in the federal government of Nigeria, abolishing customary land ownership. Unlike in other states where customary land ownership is still in vogue, in the FCT, there is nothing like customary land ownership. In other words, if you get to buy land from local chief, for an instance, you are just on your own, because based on the FCT Act, all land belongs to the federal government, and as such, they have the exclusive right to allocate land as long as the federal capital territory is concerned. So before you buy land in the federal capital territory, ask yourself if that land is allocated by the federal government or not. If it is not allocated by the federal government, just know that Oyo is your name. In other words, your money has likely entered voicemail, and I know you don't want that to happen to you. The fifth point is that the FCT Act grants the FCT minister the authority to allocate land both for public and private development. This is so important and vital, and you do not want to joke with it if you are an investor investing in the federal capital territory. And lastly, the FCT Act mandates that all developments must comply with the Abuja master plan. As an investor, you do not want to joke with the Abuja master plan. Fortunately, I've done a video about the Abuja master plan, how it came about, and some of the things that the Abuja master plan talks about, the overview of the Abuja master plan. So you can do well to refer to that video and just help yourself with that information. In summary, the FCT Act established Abuja as Nigeria's capital territory and governs its administration, development, and land management. So as an investor, before you put in your ₦1 into any property in Abuja, it is important you ask yourself this first question before you even consider whether that land is affordable, whether the location is a trust location, or other factors you may want to consider. So the first question is this property in compliance with the FCT Act? If it is not in compliance with the FCT Act, I will kindly recommend or advise you that you leave that property alone. Like I said before, the sustainability, the security, as well as the longevity of that investment you are making largely depends on the compliance of that property or that investment on the FCT Act. So I know you do not want to risk your investment if that investment does not comply with the FCT Act. Once again, my name is Iyayi. I'm the shortest distance between you and the right real estate investment here in the city of Abuja. I help my clients build sure and sustainable wealth that is transgenerational. So subscribe to this channel if you have not yet done so. Until I come your way in our next video, keep winning and see you on the other side of wealth. Bye for now.